Hey, Mel. Braet here. Gotta work from home today because the whole family caught a nasty...
Daddy!
Hey, Mikey! If you're gonna puke, find the popcorn bowl! But my availability is 110%. Coincidentally, so is my fever. Kidding. Mel, I'm so cold but hot. But I'm gonna get you that budget just as soon as... Mikey! Popcorn bowl!
Press 1 to use Instacart and get your family's sick day essentials delivered in as fast as 30 minutes. Press 2 to keep working. Do not press 2. Just use Instacart, Brian.
The following is a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. You've discovered your link to GoPowercat.com's Powercat Recruiting Podcast, presented by 24/7 Sports. And it starts right now. Now, let's go to the WTC Gig-Powered Studios. Here are your hosts, GoPowercat.com publisher Tim Fitzgerald and GoPowercat.com's Ryan Wallace.
Welcome to the Powercat Recruiting Podcast from the WTC Gig-Powered Studios. Tim Fitzgerald, Riley Gates, and Ryan Wallace in Kansas City. And with us today are Taylor Braet, Director of Football Recruiting, and Hank Jacobs, Director of Football Operations.
Administration.
I just screwed it up again.
You were practicing too.
Man, I had it.
This time.
I said it right in my head.
He was thinking about it too much.
I know.
Our director of football operations, Casey Harper, she's
Man.
the best in the business, so that's why I don't want to.
Because this is a new title for my old man brain.
It's all good.
And I can't quite get it right. How'd your day go, gentlemen?
Go Cats. It was awesome. It was a
good.
great day.
Yeah, anytime you can add 23 great student athletes, great kids, great people, it's exciting. Best part about today is there are no bad surprises.
Nope.
So
Fun and exciting ones. So.
Yep. Well, let's start off, and Wally, you just jump in whenever, but I'm going to pick off the easy question. You got a pretty darn good quarterback here. Will Howard jumps out at me because he just makes the throws. He looks like he fits this offense like Carson Wentz.
yeah, I mean, you hope so.
I mean, as a raw version of what you ended up with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the one thing that's impressive about Will, and Taylor, you can chime in when you want to, he's a close to a 4.0 student, high test score. If you watch his offense, they're doing a bunch of shift, trade, motion, pre-snap, they're in the gun, they're under center, and then he does make all the throws. You see him on film. And he's just an impressive young man, comes from a great family, kind of hits all the intangibles that you're looking for. He's a competitor. He took his team to the state semifinal in Pennsylvania, which, as you guys know, is pretty good football. And he's played basketball. I can't remember if he did a spring sport or not, but he's a great athlete. Looking forward to getting him here. And he's an early enrollee as well.
That's right. He's a gunslinger. You can tell Hank's a former offensive lineman the way he talks about quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You know,
I've been
whoa. That's where to go after that,
And correct me if I'm wrong, is he classified as a green shirt? I had never, ever heard
Green
of
shirt.
that.
I never
a
heard of
kid.
He's just an early enrollee. Yeah.
That's what a green shirt
calling
technically
him, huh?
is.
Really?
When we were defining blue shirt for reasons you can't discuss, but we were trying to get the actual definition of it, and they list green shirts too. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah. Too many shirts.
Too many
colors.
Wally?
There's only one color. Just put them in purple.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I wanted to, start with an easy one for you, and it goes back to the first commitment that you guys were able to get in this class, Nate Matlack. Taylor, it seems like with Coach Snyder's staff, and it's carried over with Coach Klieman's staff, is that idea of starting from the inside out. But more importantly to that than that for me was how important is it to get a guy like Nate in the sense that he kind of reminded me a little bit of when you had Dalton Reisner, Dalvin Warmack, a kid that not only wanted to be at Kansas State, but really wanted to help you guys build the class around him.
Yeah, there's no doubt. K-State was important to him, and I thought that meant a lot. Having parents that were both alums, he was very driven to be at K-State. His dad didn't even think he was going to commit the day he did. So that was exciting. I mean, it was – and he had a lot of people. I mean, he visited UCLA. I know Notre Dame came back in on him. TCU was interested. He's a long athlete. But, I mean, his desire and passion and care for K-State – when we FaceTimed, I saw a big old purple Powercat painted on his wall at his house. Those little things like that, as and Ryan, you know this as well as anybody else, man. Guys who care about K-State will make this thing go. people care, their desire, they're going to work harder at it. And I appreciated him and all the work he put into it, helping us make this class special.
Guys, he scares me. I watched his video. He's like a raptor out there. He's just destroying people, and he's so fast.
Yeah, and
he's
strong.
Sheesh. He's all those things you want.
Yeah.
Him and Hank have a lot in common.
One of the things you got that kind of speed.
That's exactly what I thought of when I watched the video.
One of the things that really stands out to me about this class is, obviously needed to get some immediate help on both the defensive and the offensive line with everybody that's graduating. And not only did you just go into the JUCOs and get some bodies, you got some quality bodies, guys that, racked up a lot of stats, racked up some honors, are well known and were well recruited. And, Taylor, I guess probably you first, or if Hank has anything more, but this state well, the junior colleges really well. I mean, how special is it to get, guys like Derek Newton out of Butler, just to be able to add in right away?
Those are probably the top two programs in the state. We got two. I mean, a lot of those guys I think Derek was first team all conference. So was Kamari. So, I mean, that's a great get. Derek coming back's great. I mean, he's a really good player. Dawson Del Forge looks night and day different from when he left for JUCO to where he does now. He's such a finisher, competitor. Justin Gardner helps us with length and the ability to play early. I mean, he's already played, and with two graduating corners and three graduating D tackles, we needed those guys. Robert Hintz's motor is unbelievable, and Northwest Mississippi is an unbelievable program, and and knowing kind of in an inside with those things in those places, you kind of know what you're getting with those kids too.
I know, guys, that junior college offensive tackle was an area that you would have liked to have gotten. Maybe another body, and I know Dawson is versatile and maybe could slide out there if Coach Riley needs him. But let me start by asking this. Are you guys surprised that we have gone through the early signing period without, a true junior college offensive tackle? Does that concern you maybe like it has concerned some fans on the board? Or,
I mean,
if anything, or is it easier now that that's the only position that is still kind of left out there on the board?
Yeah, we know we need it, and I mean, we had to find the right fit, and recruiting some of these guys and finding an early guy. There's not a lot of early tackles, and if they are, they're getting heavily recruited. I mean, everybody needs tackles, and I think now that we can go out there and keep recruiting and see what we can find and turn over some rocks and stay after it.
Yeah, we're never going to reach. There's a ton of junior offensive tackles out there, but I mean, are they the right fit? Can they play here? Can they play right away? Because you are limited on scholarships, and you can't just eat up a scholarship just to eat one up.
I think as we're kind of staying along the lines of maybe something you continue to look for, maybe something that didn't get as much, in terms of numbers in this class is wide receiver. That's kind of a position that's in a little bit of an interesting spot. You've got some really good up-and-comers. I mean, is it fair to say wide receiver might be an area of attack moving forward? Is it something you feel comfortable with now? Kind of where are you at on that?
I think coaches and the whole staff is excited about the depth we have right now at wide receiver and where the young guys are and where they're going to. We got some young dudes that played a lot this year. I think we only graduated one. So, I mean, of course we'd like to be loaded at every single position, but every position kind of has a scholarship max, and if you can get an unbelievable walk-on that can eventually be that guy too, that's another route to help you with your 85 total scholarships.
Yeah, and I mean, Jalen Travis is a good football player. He didn't drop one ball at camp. He separated. He did everything that we needed to do. That's why we offered him at camp, and we think he has a chance to be a special player for us. And we hit on a lot of walk-ons, the previous staff did, and we're excited about the future of Phillip Brooks and Malik Knowles and Keenan Garber and Chris Herron. I mean, all those guys.
Joshua
Youngblood, I didn't even mention him.
Yep.
He's pretty good.
Yeah,
you might want to keep him.
Yeah, he's fast.
Tight end. It looks like when I look at this list, there's two listed, but Stufflebean is a potential one also, listed athlete. Is this an effort to kind of get the tight end more in the image of what the Messingham Klieman offense would like? Yeah,
we want to line up in a bunch of different personnels, and you got to be deep at that position to do so. And you want to line up in different personnel formations and, disguise some stuff and being 22 personnel, 12 personnel, 21 personnel. I mean, it's important to us. So you just got to take big athletes and hope they develop and become great, versatile football players.
Guys, I want to go back to the offensive line and a guy that, I'm going to pick one off from Fitz because we were talking late last night going through some film. Whit Mitchum. First off, I got to ask, beyond just what he brings at, 6'7", 250 pounds, I mean, his tape kind of speaks for itself, but how in the hell do you guys end up in McKinsey, Tennessee to get Whit Mitchum?
He tweeted at Joe Hall?
I think so, just kids. I mean, that's why it never stops.
Yeah. And I'm just amazed a kid like that was sitting out there.
Yeah, I mean, we're always looking for length. That's the first thing. You sort
incredible.
You sort your recruiting service list by height, go down the list, or
by speed. I mean, it depends on the position, and you go from there.
Yeah, but in that particular one, I think he tweeted at Joe Hall, and
that's amazing.
I watch his film, and we're lucky to get him.
Yep.
Maybe you know the answer to this, maybe not, but have you heard from Whit? Is there any plans for him to maybe make the short trip down to see the Liberty Bowl?
Potentially. We can't have any contact with him, but...
okay, right.
Yeah, but, I mean, I think he could come down to Memphis, him and his older brother, Luke, so we'd love to have him. We just can't talk to him.
I know you guys can't talk about specific players, but the blue shirt thing is new to Kansas State. I mean, their fans are pretty familiar with gray shirting. That was something you guys did quite a bit. Yep. There is a young man that will fill that, I guess. When did the blue shirting thing kind of come up, Taylor? When did you guys start talking about maybe some of these kids fit this because they haven't taken official visits and fit that criteria?
Yeah, I don't know if it's what they fit it or what it kind of came across. It was just an option that we talked about as a staff and progressed forward towards it. And
is that a hard sell?
I mean, it's not a. Just depends. It depends on the kid and how you sell it. And
there's nothing really that changes. You just can't have off-campus contact with them, and you can't official visit them.
Yep. Easy enough. One of them seemed to fit that pretty easily. Yeah. Running back. Are you trying to get the tiniest guys now? Is it like the Sproles thing going here where you just tell me about these two. You got two guys, 5'7", 170, that are light up film. Are they slot receivers, running backs, a little bit of everything? Does this fit what you said? Guys that can play different spots.
Athletes make it difficult on a defense to line up and play. I mean,
one play catch the ball.
One player you're in 30 personnel formation with the diamond in the backfield. The next year in just regular pro, and he's out in the slot. I mean, it's hard to defend, and it's hard to predict what an offense is going to do when you're doing all those different
With the four
things.
we signed last year, I think they were all about 6 feet or 5'11", so this is kind of like a different back that'll help us, like Hank said, be more versatile.
The two that jump out at me positions are offensive line and defensive back. You kind of restocked, particularly defensive back. This is a really good class, a really well-rounded class. But those two areas get me.
You can't have enough DBs in this league. I mean, the Big 12, it's a spread and throw. I mean, it's a corner and DB league and defensive ends as well. I mean, you've got to have those guys to make things happen. And with the wideouts we play week in, week out, with the length we go against, it was important that we got length.
Yeah.
And we were able to do that.
We're excited because, I mean, T and TJ are both from historically good programs in Georgia, and you make a dent in there, and hopefully you can go back there again.
That's just what I was about to just chip in real quick, because I thought it was notable how Coach Klieman brought up today. You know, he wants winners. You've obviously been around him and all the success that he had at North Dakota State recruiting winners. I mean, that just fit his system really well, getting guys that have had that type of success at high school.
Yeah, and they're just used to competing at a high level, and they're not afraid of the stage.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Well, let's have a little bit more fun with these guys here. We've already talked a little bit about some of our favorite players already, and I know you guys probably don't want to single anybody out, but was there any player or, multiple guys that, you individually are excited about, or maybe Veneer just in general among the coaching staff is happy with, maybe more so than what you're seeing put out there on social media, kind of guys that you're just ecstatic to have that maybe flew under the radar that you were able to land?
You like them all, right? I really felt like I built a pretty good relationship with T. Denson just because it was a weekday visit, and he visited 5 places, so we had to do a lot with him. But there's not a kid on here that I don't feel like I have a great relationship and a different relationship. Cody Suffel being visited us every home game. He's got a special family. I really got to know Jay real well, Carver Willis and his parents. I mean, there's so many to be excited about. It's hard to just single out one guy.
Obviously, Taylor really enjoys Dawson because of the school he went to before here.
So
No, they're all I mean, I don't know, under the radar. I don't really pay attention to the star thing.
Well,
but
how about this one then, too? You guys are able to see everything from behind the scenes, including, visits. Maybe you got to hear some good stories from in-home visits. Is there a memory that sticks out, whether it was from you guys entertaining guys on campus or, maybe the first time you flipped on somebody's film? Is there a lasting memory that, you guys take away from the group that you were able to sign today?
I mean, I'm on a group chat with all of them on Snapchat, so I get to be entertained every day. So, I mean, they're all – I don't know if there's really a memory or I can't just pull one out right now for you.
I think
– sorry, Ryan.
Stuffle being at camp when we offered him, he got pretty emotional. That was a pretty good memory.
Yeah, he did.
Same with Taylor Warner.
Mm-hmm.
Just Kansas kids taking pride in being from Kansas, and that was one of my favorite moments.
I mean, Nate Macklack, when he wanted to commit, I think I've said this already, but – he's telling me, hey, go find Coach, and I'm just walking around the corner, and all of a sudden I just start running as soon as I cross the corner to go get Coach because I kind of knew what was coming.
Taylor and T had a pretty epic photo shoot.
We went all
last
out.
Monday. That was.
I saw that on Twitter today. That was
Sunday night.
Yeah, Sunday night, man. We went all out.
Mm-hmm.
We had a really good time.
Yeah.
What's become more popular, guys? Is it the Cat script, or has the Cat script taken over, fill the Wildcats' job essentially in some of those photo shoots?
We haven't really busted out Phil. I mean, we had the sledgehammer now and some of that stuff.
And
Phil hasn't really. Phil's there.
Yeah,
he just hasn't been pulled out. I don't.
Kind of feel bad for him.
Poor Phil.
I know. Neglected. Somebody needs to
get the white pants, the white jersey. That's all anybody ever needs anymore. That's what I want.
That's let's
be honest.
It's just something different.
Phil would not look good even in the white pants.
I agree.
Phil would still look like he's got issues. Hank, you're new to this in the state of Kansas, but do you look at kids like Matlack and Stufflebean and Warner and go, these are really good football players that services such as ours and 24/7 and Rivals and ESPN all have it 3 stars. Mm-hmm. I look at Matlack and I'm going, how is this kid 3 stars? Yeah. He's as good as you'll see.
I don't know. I always just try to evaluate a kid and trust my own eyes. I'm not big at looking into stars or whatever. And we had a ton of kids at North Dakota State that didn't have any stars and ended up being superstars. So, I mean, Carson Wentz at one time was the highest paid quarterback in the league. There was a guard in Green Bay that just signed for $30 million that played at North Dakota State, and he was not even a 3-star. So I don't really take stock into that. A good football player is a good football player, and you can see it.
In this conversion from one staff to another, and Taylor, you were literally the bridge here. That seems to be the core DNA. Is just find the kids that fit your program and develop them. That's what Coach Snyder did. That's what Coach Klieman's doing, and it seemed to really fit the culture here at Kansas State.
Yeah, you got to find kids that are going to buy in. I mean, you got to find the kids that are going to work hard and do all the things you want them to do and get after it, understand the process, and attack each day. And as Coach said, win the dang day. I mean, you got to get kids that attack it 1-0, one play at a time, all those things, and they'll develop. I mean, because they're hungry to do it. They're hungry to do it at the place they're at. They're hungry to do it not because they were entitled or they already had it given to them because of stars or whatnot like that. But, I mean, it's the fact of, again, Cody Stufflebean comes to every home game. I mean, he didn't have to do that, but he comes to every game because he loves K-State.
Mm-hmm. We heard Hank talk about it. We heard Coach talk about it today, the importance of what the summer camp slate this past summer really meant to this class and being able to identify and land some guys back in the summer. But also, the official visits. And we heard Coach talk about the importance of, really showing guys this is Manhattan, and this is what we have to offer. So I wanted to touch on official visits because it seems like K-State year in and year out does so well with kids that are able to take official visits. More often than not, you guys are able to land them. And so obviously you two and the coaches act as amazing hosts. But do you have players that are on the team currently that act as player hosts that have kind of become, an ace in the hole for you guys?
Yeah, I think some of the guys compete over, hey, I'm 5-0. I know that Justin Hughes will tell me that, which is great.
That's
but
awesome.
There's so many important moving pieces when kids get here. Kelly Creer does an unbelievable job. Yeah. She's the greatest. Bo Savage does our Photoshop. I mean, Starkey who takes pictures. I mean, there's Al Serby who lays it out. I mean, it's definitely a group thing. And when kids show up, they see smiles on everybody's face. Everybody that's in the building, everybody from anybody they see will smile at them, say hello, welcome. But our kids, I think, get competitive, and they want to see this place thrive, and they want to see this place be successful because they bought into it too. And I think they want kids to buy into it and see what they saw in it, and that definitely helps.
Yeah, I mean, as far as host goes, you just try to find kids that fit, and they're good kids, and they show them what Kansas State is all about. Hayden Gillum's an excellent host.
Yeah, there's a bunch of...
Yeah, Malik Knowles.
Yep, Malik.
Obviously, Josh Youngblood does a great job with Cooper Beebe did a great job.
You're talking about guys that even we on the outside can tell are bought in, that are not just invested as players, but as their lives.
Yeah.
Really makes.
And then someday when they get older, they're really going to appreciate this place. I mean, I mean, they do now, but I mean, it's something that only grows better with time.
Yeah, I think last year, like Goolsby was a good host. We try to not pair them up with seniors.
Yeah, I try not to get seniors.
Yeah,
guys, just because it's their senior year, it's their time.
How about one more from me, guys, because I know we're probably getting short on time. But, again, the folks on our side are always interested in kind of the stuff that they don't know, the behind-the-scenes stuff. So is there a specific recruitment this year that you felt like was extremely competitive and one that you guys are very happy that you won and maybe had to take a little bit more extra time on and you're kind of reaping those benefits tonight?
I mean, Witt, I thought we had to do some extra stuff for sure. And, I mean, like you said, T. Denson took 4 official visits before us. I mean, and we got him. And Will Howard visited over the summer. We had to find stuff to do. I mean, Manhattan, Kansas doesn't have a Dave & Buster's and those types of things. So we have to make things intriguing sometimes. That's why it's easier to visit for home games and during bowl prep because we have practice. But you try to make each kid's experience special, obviously. And, I mean, you try to also bring in the kids that are local that have been committed a while. You want to bring them together. You know, I mean, that's kind of how you built it. I don't know who else you think, Hank, that we really had to.
Yeah, T. Denson had some challenges.
Obviously,
we got on him late, but Taylor did an unbelievable job with that.
When you deal with a kid like that that's taken 4 visits before you, are you kind of like, he's never going to make it here?
I don't know. I mean,
it's got to be a little scary.
He's got a lot of energy.
He kept the love coming, so hey, there's still a chance. Let's go swing the bat.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, you guys have another engagement you got to get to. We appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having us.
You bet. And
what do you guys do at 5:30 on signing day night? How does Hank and Taylor celebrate after today?
6:30 we have a donor event.
Yeah.
They're off to a donor event. So
where Hank is the keynote. Where Hank's the keynote speaker, and he's gonna, we're gonna just keep him going. He's gonna keep rolling.
Guys, that's not quite as exciting as I was hoping to hear.
Maybe after the donor event, we'll see.
Yeah.
There we go.
If we go out somewhere, there's too many women chasing Hank around, so we got to be careful.
That'll do it for the first half of this recruiting podcast. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
Stay locked in. The Powercat Podcast will be right back.
Picture this nightmare scenario. You're hosting friends for the big game. It's neck and neck in the fourth quarter, and suddenly you realize you're out of drinks. You start to sweat. Your friends start to turn on you. You're forced to go on a last-second drink run and end up missing the game-winning touchdown while in line. Terrifying, isn't it? Luckily, you can avoid the drama with Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery. With Drizzly, you can shop a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits, then get them delivered right to your watch party. Compare prices across multiple stores in your area, find the best deals on game day drinks, and get back to armchair quarterbacking from, you guessed it, your armchair. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com today. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations.
If you're in the market for investment-worthy bags, watches, and fine jewelry, Rebag is the answer. Rebag is a luxury resale marketplace where each piece is carefully vetted and verified by experts to ensure quality and authenticity. If you're in the market, use Rebag to buy and sell finds from the world's top brands, including Hermes, Chanel, and Cartier. Head to Rebag.com to get 10% off your first purchase with code REBAG10. Shop today at Rebag.com. That's REBAG.com and use promo code REBAG10 for 10% off your first purchase.
We now send it back to Fitz in the WTC Gig-Powered Studios.
We continue with our Powercat Signing Day special, a recruiting podcast Thank you to Hank Jacobs and Taylor Braet for coming into the studios and sitting down with us and sharing their thoughts. And now we turn to our own analysis and our expert Ryan Wallace in Kansas City to discuss these things. Tim Fitzgerald, Riley Gates here in the WTC Gig Powered Studios. And let's start with the stuff those guys can't discuss. There were 2 blue shirts in this class, something new to Kansas State. I know Kansas has done it. It's really a weird rule. It's far stranger than gray shirting. And 1 gray shirt, and let's just stop here and say a gray shirt is someone who delays their full-time entry into college. They can be a part-time student or not a student in the fall, and then become a full-time student in the spring, gray shirt, and you actually pick up another spring football because then you get that one, and then if you don't want to play in the fall, you can red shirt and get another spring football. There's one guy, Hadley Panzer, did that. Kind of caught us off guard, to be honest, but he's gimping around on a broken leg, and he kind of fits the criteria for that, doesn't he, Ryan Wallace?
Yeah, and credit Riley Gates, too, for kind of uncovering the fact that, and I wonder how much it did lead to Hadley being placed on a gray shirt, that probable injury, which is also a shame for Hadley because he's, if we haven't mentioned it yet before, we should. He's one of the state's most decorated wrestlers. So, a shame that it looks like he'll probably have to miss that for this year because I know he'd be going for another state title. But, to be able to get Hadley Panzer, regardless of injury or not, on a gray shirt is pretty phenomenal because you can ask D. Scott Fritchen and Riley Gates. They were there alongside me at the K-State camp that Panzer was at where he actually earned his scholarship offer. He is a specimen. He really looks the part, 6'4", probably right around 300 pounds, if not 290, and just is overpowering in his strength. And I don't mean just from, the top, but what he's able to do leverage-wise from below the waist is impressive. It was very rare that he lost a repetition against players that were of higher level than what he sees in the fall, which has always kind of been a knock on the small school guys. Is how long will it take to get them ready to go against Big 12 competition? Well, we kind of got a taste of it over the summer, but I think, like you said, Fitz, it is almost just a bigger blessing in disguise for Hadley now that he can have added time to get himself ready for that leap in competition level. And I think he's one of the more underrated prospects in this entire class. I really do.
I don't want to just echo everything that he just said, but man, you watch his film and you're like, ugh. It is unfortunate he can't defend his state wrestling title because I have a feeling. I don't want to say it would have been easy, but I have a feeling he might have gotten there pretty easy for him. I think he probably would have gone back to back.
And I think honestly, we're looking at a situation a lot like Ty Zimmerman, a guy who comes in as a gray shirt, can redshirt the following year, but doesn't. Just goes ahead and plays because they'll have a need for him after he sits out this season, and still have the red shirt available in case an injury happens down the road. But I think he'll be in the mix pretty early in his career. Next topic, blue shirts, a new thing to Kansas State. It's an interesting, weird, strange thing. If you haven't taken an official visit, if you hadn't had official visits from coaches into your home, in-home visits, so to speak, there is a loophole that has now been deemed a blue shirt, which means you can just walk into practice on the first day of practice and get a scholarship as a true freshman in the following class. So these kids would get a scholarship in the 2021 class. I had Coach Klieman clarify that today. I thought that was very interesting. And we're talking about Felix Anudike. Is that what we're going with? Anudike?
Until we hear differently.
Anudike,
defensive end out of Lee Summit, and Sam Shields out of Manhattan, Kansas, whose mom just happens to be the number 2 in the athletic department, who needs an official visit when you're there all the time. Very interesting. This is a weird rule, Wally. This is just weird because they clearly were recruited. There's they've done edits. They've had photos, so they've clearly visited the program, but unofficially. And so then they can use this blue shirt rule, and they got very creative in getting more guys into this class, so to speak, than they actually had available numbers.
Yes, and I mean, the key is they were recruited, but they were off the NCAA books, if you want to call it that. Right. In other words, no money, no official visit, no in-home visit where, and not in the case of either of these two kids since they're local, but, a coach that has to fly out to see them or anything like that. So, and a blue shirt is pretty much meant for I think guys would accept a blue shirt if Kansas State was far and away their best option, where a team looks at them as better than a walk-on, and maybe just for one reason or another, maybe they're healthy or their frame is already at a place where you can see them, being a role player, even if it's on the scout team. So maybe they don't need a gray shirt to develop. And so Sam Shields meets that criteria. Felix Anudike meets that criteria. And, with Sam, it obviously makes a ton of sense because, like you said, he's got, a mother high up in the athletic department. Who needs an official visit when you've seen everything there is to see, know everything there is to know? And so for Sam, coming in, first day of fall practice, he'll be on scholarship in 2021. And again, you have to look at it too from the eyes of the coaches, where they look at Sam Shields and Felix, and they say, do we feel like these guys would be up our boards in 2021? And if the answer is yes, then go ahead and get them now, count them towards 2021, and you're already off and rolling. So as far as Sam Shields go, really physical kid, comes from a Manhattan program that is ground and pound, blue collar, bust you in the face, and so he'll fit really well with Connor Riley. With Felix Anudike at Lee Summit, he's a kid that Kansas State identified very early, had him in on a junior day visit back in January with a number of really, really high-profile players. So that tells you how much they thought of him even that early on in the process. Had him back at camp. I wrote about how I thought he was one of the best defensive ends at that early June camp. He's got good burst, was among the top defensive linemen in the Metro, a Simone Award kind of guy, and a first-team All-State defensive lineman at the highest class in Missouri. So neither one of these guys are scrubs, if you want to call it that, just because they've been placed on blue shirts. This was, again, absolute steal. Very unique, creative way that we're seeing Chris Klieman boost the numbers in this class, which is something that, again, we didn't see Coach Snyder do it, and you kind of wonder why not, because if there are loopholes there to take, you're seeing the benefits of taking them.
Very funny, too, that this is the second straight year now, of two, where he's flipped a North Dakota State commit. Now, obviously, the last one, Jaron Lewis, was his commit at North Dakota State, but this is another guy that was going to go and succeed at, or probably succeed at a program like that. And then he comes to K-State. So, he's willing to give up his offer at a successful FCS school like North Dakota State, the powerhouse, and go this route, this blue shirt route. And if you get to play at K-State and be a part of something special at K-State. So I think it's kind of a, obviously a funny connection with Coach Klieman, but I think it does say a lot about K-State that somebody's willing to kind of go that route if it means they get to play in the Big 12.
Well, it's intriguing to me. I would think they would still be classified as a recruit and still have some options open if they change their mind. They don't technically really sign anything on signing day. I think they probably sign blank pieces of paper. It's not very binding. Wally, the next topic is one that I'm fascinated with because I've asked Coach Klieman about this junior college thing. He doesn't want to do it. I kind of wanted to whisper to him, "You're gonna need to." I mean, it's you when you're surrounded by these junior colleges with all these players that are very, very talented, and you have a need like K-State did along the defensive line. Why wouldn't you do this? 5 is probably more than we'll see from them typically, but 5 was pretty typical of Bill Snyder down the stretch. I mean, he was doing 3 and 5. He wasn't doing the 8, 9, 10, or 12 like he did at one time. But what strikes me about this group of 5, they all can play. Coach Snyder even got into getting the guys that were going to redshirt because they might be good and they're not good yet. These dudes are all good. These dudes can all come in the fall, and some of them in the spring because they'll be here, and make an impact on this team right away. I love this group of junior college players. It reminds me of an old Snyder group when he really collected some nice pieces out of the JUCO ranks.
Well, and I just think it's smart, and Coach Snyder was very good at this as well down the stretch. But, you're seeing Coach Klieman do the same thing, which is, only depend on the junior college players at positions that, you need immediate help. You don't just go get a junior college guy to go get a junior college guy. You get someone that you identify that can help a position of sincere need. And defensive line was obviously one of those, especially defensive tackle. And to get Robert Hintz, who was, an all-region guy, to get Derek Newton, who was an all-KJCC guy as a freshman, was enormous. And I think the other thing that is kind of flying under the radar, and I wrote a little bit about it on Tuesday night when Derek Newton committed, is they basically get Derek Newton for free because he already signed a national letter of intent once before with Kansas State. His scholarship, number-wise, does not count towards 2020. So, again, if he ends up working out, he works out. If he doesn't, you're not really losing anything with this 2020 class as far as, oh, my God, we gave a scholarship, that was wasted. So to be able to get somebody of his caliber for free is incredible. The other thing, and I'm not 100% sure as far as Kamari Gaines goes, but I'm pretty sure, which is the majority of these junior college kids that they were able to get still have red shirts available. Do I think they'll use them? Probably not, because, again, they're at a position of need right away. But, that's huge, too, especially as we mentioned before, just in case there's an injury somewhere along the way. I do feel as though the majority of these guys that they were able to bring in, besides Justin Gardner, since he was already redshirted at Oregon State, have another year of a red shirt available.
I love Kamari Gaines. I just watched him on film, the limited time that we've been able to, and you always see the kid's best plays on film. You don't see the ones where he struggles. But, man, I really think that he has the ability to come in here because I think that defensive end position is one that's really open. And obviously you're in a unique situation playing alongside Wyatt Hubert. I mean, that he's going to get double teamed almost every single play next season, and that opens up a lot of possibilities for you to come in, you to maybe take that open DN spot. Now, I'm not saying he's the automatic starter. I think they have some guys that can transition into that role. Like a Bronson Massey maybe gets to see more time on the field. But I really think that we could see Kamari come in here and take over a major part of this defensive line. I'm really excited to see what he does when he gets here.
And Riley, when you talk about Kamari, just from seeing him in person when I drove down to watch Hutchinson against Fort Scott this past fall, he's rated the number 4 kid in this class. Do I think he's probably that good? Honestly, no. But the thing about him is he's not really bad at anything either. He's very balanced. He's not a speed rusher. He's not just going to fly by offensive tackles. But he's also, got really good size, defends the pass really well. He's just very well balanced. So I think, when you he kind of is like Wyatt Hubert to a certain degree, maybe doesn't have quite the burst that Wyatt does, but he's going to mirror Wyatt a little bit more. And then you have, a player like Boone Massey and maybe a guy like Nate Matlack that have a little bit more burst, a little bit more athleticism. All those guys are going to complement each other really well for Buddy Wyatt.
Dawson Delforge is intriguing, and Taylor Braet talked about it. He went to junior college out of Wamego and did what he had to do. He got bigger, stronger, more skilled. He's coming back home. And I've got to be honest, there may not be a better opportunity for a junior college player to step on campus immediately as a starter than at Kansas State's offensive line next season. He's walking into a gold mine situation, isn't he?
Yeah, we talked about in our podcast, I believe yesterday, about the fact that there are some junior college kids that I think Kansas State maybe prioritized a little bit higher than Dawson just because they're more natural offensive tackles. And, I think when you kind of read the tea leaves and kind of talk to guys through the grapevine, they didn't take care of business. And, we heard from Taylor Braet earlier tonight and kind of reflecting on Dawson that he's a guy that did go down and take care of business, used a redshirt season to just completely transform his body. And then, really elevated his game this year as a starter for Butler County. I think, he's a player that, like you said, saw an opportunity, not only that it was just a hometown school that saw an opportunity that he fits in really well because Dawson Delforge is a, ground and pound kind of guy. He's aggressive. He wants to mow you down, and that's exactly what this K-State offensive line wants out of their guys. And so, again, a guy that I think, like Riley was saying about Kamari, I don't know if Dawson is going to walk in right away and play from day one. But if you get him as a backup, he's a hell of a backup, and he's a guy that fits the system really well. So, a proud player that wants to be at home, and I think he'll really make his family and the Wamego community very happy.
Okay, we will eventually do a story in which we pick our players that we like most for this or that, or we did it last year, and I imagine we're doing it again this year. I enjoyed it.
I won, by the way. Can we give me some props here? I had 2.5 points and won it. Here we go.
I don't know what that means. So let's just do this. Those guys, being part of the program, couldn't really say it. But who's your favorite in this group? Who's your favorite, Wally?
Oh, man, you are putting me on the spot. I mentioned, I really do like the potential when you talk about sleeper guys, to get Hadley Panzer as a gray shirt is enormous. But because he's a gray shirt, I'm going to gloss over him. Carver Willis and Whit Mitchum are really, really talented football players for being 3 stars. And you look at what they're able to do, and they still have developing to do because neither one of them is going to come into campus probably bigger than 270. So they definitely have, they need to make friends with Chris Dawson quickly, and I'm sure they will. Mm-hmm. But their athletic ability, their length is off the charts. And I think even though Kansas State wasn't able to lock down an immediate need at offensive tackle, I think the 2 they were able to find for down the road are, I don't want to say it, Fitz, I really don't, but they're, you look at Colorado and you look at McKenzie from a classification level in Tennessee, they're 2 of the better small class linemen K-State has had since a guy like Dalton Reisner. And I thoroughly believe that. So those 2 guys really jump off the page to me. And beyond that, this is tough. I'm going to say one more. Will Howard. There's just something about Will that he seems to be able to make a lot of the throws and seems to fit what Courtney Messingham wants to do in this offense. So there are a lot of guys that I think will develop into really, really good players, but those 3 in particular are a lot of fun to watch.
I wanted to say Deuce Vaughn here. That's the one I want to go to because I watched Wally. You did the 10 highlights things and Deuce's play on that. Oh my goodness! I was like, that's Darren Sproles, and I want to compare him to Darren Sproles because he's 5'7", and I'm like, oh man, it seems like it fits so well. I want to hold off on Deuce. I think he's going to be good. And I hate to just be very cliche, but I can't help but pick T. Denson here. I think he has a really good size on him right now. He's listed as 6'1". He's 208 pounds. I feel like that's a really good starting point for him at the corner. And then he gets into that Chris Dawson system, and, he gets a little bit more good weight on him. But, man, I just feel like he's got that it. We said coming into this year that we wanted to see a K-State corner become that guy, maybe a bit of a lockdown guy. And I just feel like from what we've been able to gather about him, read about him, watch, whatever, I feel like he has that mantra about him where you're not going to get past me. I'm going to look to shut you down. And I love that out of my corners. I really like T. Denson, and I really think he's going to have a bright future here. I think he could get on the field as early as next year, too, because Chris Klieman kind of mentioned that in the press conference.
Well, I'm going to be a homer. I know some fans are going to be upset that some of the top players leaked out of the state and ended up in Nebraska or Minnesota, and yeah, that sucks, but I absolutely love 3 dudes from the state of Kansas in this class, and 2 of them really slid through the cracks of recruiting. When you look at a guy like Cody Stufflebean, he just shows up to camp and you go, holy cow, this guy can really play. And Taylor Warner's a beast. He just is so aggressive. I think they both play a lot very early in their careers, and I think Stufflebean has the ability to develop into a really, really special tight end at Kansas State. But my favorite player, without a doubt, is Nate Matlack. Holy cow. He just does things out there. You're like, that's not fair. You shouldn't be able to do that. He's playing linebacker in these highlights. He sheds 2 blocks, and then he just destroys the ball carrier, and you're like, dude, you're 6'4". You should be getting tangled up out there. He's so graceful, sudden, athletic, long. He's not going to redshirt. He's just not going to redshirt. He's going to play next year.
No, and I've said it on the boards, but I'll repeat it again, and this will just add to your love for him, Fitz. When I was able to go in over the summer and watch Nate work out at the Top Speed training facility that he's been a member at for many years now here in Kansas City, talking with the trainer Joseph Potts, who has done a lot for the high school football landscape in Kansas City, but is also trained guys on the Royals before. He's got an extensive Major League Baseball training background. But anyway, Nate had left. He finished his workout, calmly leaves, barely broke a sweat. And Joseph Potts turns to me and he goes, I can't break him. I cannot break him. The kid just continues to come in day after day after day after day. Doesn't matter what workout schedule is put up on the chalkboard. He does it, doesn't complain. And, the coaches are going to love him, Fitz. I mean, Chris Dawson's going to love that kind of mentality.
That's unbelievable. I feel like I failed. I feel like I should have been on his film early and up the ear hole of all of the recruiting analysts at 24/7 saying, how is this kid 3 stars? Tell me how this kid is 3 stars. Explain to me, watch this video, and understand he's playing at a high level in Kansas City. If he was in Texas, if he was in Florida, if he was in Georgia or even New Jersey or Ohio, he would be 4 stars for sure. And if he'd been invited to a national camp, he might be 5. I've seen a lot of those guys at camps. What I see on film is someone really, really special. And if he has that kind of work ethic, it's someone that'll play on Sundays. And I'm calling it right now on signing day 2020 here in December.
Shoot or shoot, huh?
He's going to play next year, and he's going to play on Sundays within 4 years. He's that good. I don't know what position. Might be a defensive end. It's just you can just use him at different things. I'm giving him the nickname the Raptor. That's just it. He doesn't have a choice. Even if he hates it, I'm going to call him that. It probably won't catch on like the Dragon for Alex Barnes. I tried so hard. Guys, I like this class. And here's one of the reasons why. And I'm sorry if it. You know how much I love Bill Snyder and how things kind of slipped in terms of recruiting. They were always scrambling. They were always trying to fill spots. And then when you went back at 2 years later and looked at the recruiting class, there was a third of the recruiting class where you didn't even know who these players were. They'd come and gone, and they never really did anything at K-State, and they'd already disappeared. You already forgot talking about them on signing day. Ryan Wallace, I know kids go through things, and kids come and go, and they run into obstacles, but I think most of this class, when we look back in 4 years, 5 years, we're going to say, how about that 2020 class and what they contributed at Kansas State? Because I think they got good fits, they had solid kids, and they didn't take a bunch of chances to fill the class.
Yeah, I mean, another, from the outside looking in, it's another typical Kansas State class. They're kind of flirting with the top 50, which if you do know something about K-State recruiting, that is rare. They haven't done that in probably about 5 or 6 years. But, somewhere kind of in the middle of the pack nationally, don't have a 4-star rated kid. But I honestly think from top to bottom, this is one of the most well-rounded, balanced classes that Kansas State has been able to get since 2014. And you go back and look at that 2014 class, and I know it has some junior college failures in there, but that's Dalton Reisner, Dalvin Warmack, Elijah Lee, Kendall Adams. The list goes on and on and on. And so those guys were all cornerstones for Kansas State for many years to come. And I'll echo what you said. I think that this class has a bunch of those guys from the top, the most highly rated guys, all the way down to the bottom. And I think the scariest thing in saying this, and you're right, Fitz, they didn't get the best of the best in Kansas, and they didn't get an offensive tackle in the JUCO ranks. And maybe, like Riley said, and I agree, maybe they should have gotten, one other wide receiver. But, there's no signing class is ever going to be perfect. We're always going to have things that we're, disappointed in to some degree. But I think when you kind of step back and you really consider what Chris Klieman and them have been talking about from day one, which is we're behind the 8 ball in 2020. We are trying to come in and form relationships quickly that other programs have already been on for months, if not years. And to see them still be able to land the caliber of players that they were able to get, it's really, really scary if you're a Big 12 rival, seeing what this coaching staff did with 2020, knowing that they're already getting the gears going on 2021, 2022. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think, to cover this staff for the long haul.
And that's exactly where I was just about to pepper in a comment is I don't want to take anything away from today's 2020 class. I think these kids are great, and I think they'll excite K-State fans. But, boy, if you're not already counting down the days until the 2021 signing day, because that's when we're really going to see what can this staff do with time to establish relationships with the best of the best. And I'm excited to see what they do with that class based on what they did with this one.
And one more thing, Whit Mitchum, I see you. Man, that kid, I can't wait to see if they can stack good weight on him, Wally. If they can get 20 pounds of muscle on him early, he's going to be a left tackle. He is so athletic.
I saw highlights. Here he is, announcing his commitment on Tuesday evening, late. And I mean like a half hour before midnight.
Yeah.
And so I'm surfing on Twitter, and there are highlights. And granted, he didn't really do anything, but of his McKenzie High School basketball team. And Fitz, he's the center and looks like, Shaquille O'Neal, and moves really well too. So yeah, there's a lot to like about Whit. I mean, he's got all the potential. It's just a matter of, like you said, what can the strength team do, and what can Connor Riley and company do?
Well, we could go on a very long time about this, and we will do so with the written word and some videos and some more podcasts, but that's going to do it for this special recruiting signing day podcast from the Go Powercat studios here in downtown Manhattan. Ryan Wallace, thank you. Exceptional as always. Riley Gates, I appreciate you sitting in and helping carry this show because I'm worn out and I didn't do anything today. I sat around and talked and watched you guys work. Fabulous job, guys. Incredible job. You know what you did? You won the dang day. You did.
You've been listening to the Powercat Recruiting Podcast, presented by 24/7 Sports. Powercat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street Publishing.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.